Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Disgruntled Docs. Today we have a very special guest. He has a very sexy mustache that I hope to one day get a mustache ride from. We have SARC Corpsman. What's up, bro?
What's up, dude?
Nice having you on here, man. I know we've been kind of talking in the DMs a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But thanks for coming on, bro. I know it's some people have asked about like different things when it comes to the Corpsman pipeline, and then when it comes to ATF or even the Smt Life. So
thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude, it's always good to have a little bit of different experience, especially because our field is just kind of all over the place and there's so many different specialties. But I know it's one of the things that I always kind of see on Instagram, ATF fucking commercials. And I'm just like, God, dude, this is so lame. You know what I mean? But I feel like we could definitely put out some better information when it comes to a lot of the stuff that kids are seeing out there. And just to kind of, I don't know, make it a little more streamlined, I guess you could say. Yeah.
It's always changing, man. So it's good to like kind of get like the new information out. So yeah.
All right. So when it comes to a lot of this stuff, I know like most people's first step is Googling how to get into the Navy, how to become a corpsman and all that, and then talking to a recruiter.
Yeah. Which until specifically for the SARC Corpsman pipeline, more so than the other two, the DMT and the SARC. Up until about 2 years ago, it was really hard to find any information on the internet, which is kind of why I started the SARC Corpsman Instagram page, because people use social media, and it kind of took off, and a lot of people started hitting me up for questions and things like that on how to submit a package, whether they were fleet guys or they were civilians trying to get into it, like how do I do this? And then ATF started to come online and kind of, just went from there. Yeah, the whole SARC Corpsman Insta page just started simply try to give like a more relevant place to get information, because there's so many places on the internet as far as like Reddit and message boards and stuff like that go. We're putting old and outdated information. Everybody nowadays uses social media, so it's just a good place to start, and it kind of turned into what it is.
Yeah, and I've always seen a lot of your stuff. I think a different buddy of mine that I was on a deployment with, he was interested in it, and then just through mutual follows as well. And I've seen a lot of the stuff that you put on there. And usually when people ask me about it, I'm like, look, man, I only know so much. And I try to push them over towards your direction, so that way they get way more accurate information than most of the stuff that's out there. And it's definitely good that they have stuff like that are feeding the correct information so people kind of know a little bit better. So with a lot of that information, what's some of the biggest questions or things that kind of you see are a little weird?
The biggest thing that I've seen that you won't find on any web page, a recruiter's not going to tell you, is that if you get an ATF contract, it doesn't matter what you want to do, because when you get an ATF contract, it's simply for that. It's not for any specific job field. You have to get placed into that job field. So you can think of ATF contract as just a ticket to the show kind of thing. And then you got to screen, and you got to continue to screen. You got to keep your grades up and all that stuff. But you'll get guys that wanted to be a corpsman, not necessarily interested in being in the ATF program, but when they go to the recruiter station, there's no corpsman billets for that recruiter station, that district, or however they do it, quotas available. But they'll offer them an ATF contract, and you don't have to screen for that. You don't have to be in height and weight standards. You don't have to be anything. You just have to say, I want it, and they'll give it to you.
Yeah, I still can't believe that you can just walk into like a recruiter and be like, yeah, HMATF, that's all you have available, but it has corpsman in it. Cool, yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah. And then from that point, there's really nothing that happens to those guys until they get to A school. So in boot camp, they're not part of the Warrior Challenge program yet, which is hopefully changing soon. They're not in 800 divisions yet, which should be changing soon. So there's no like oversight or even, prepping them for the next step, which is A school along the way. So then they get to A school, they have to do their just practice PST. They don't have to pass. They can fail that one. It's just a kind of gauging their capabilities at that point. Mm-hmm. And then by week 6, they have to do it. for good. And if they don't pass that, then they're done. They don't even get to stay in the Navy at that point. They're going to add SEPM from the Navy and put them back out on the street because the contract was specifically for ATF. A lot of guys don't understand that. I don't know the numbers on how many dudes actually get the boot, but it does happen. So definitely something to know before you go in there.
Yeah, I've talked to some buddies, and it's true. Because of that that specific thing, and that contract states that, hey, you're going for this direct thing. You don't pass any of that, you get the boot. And also, depending on those PST times, is another thing I heard is like a heavy consideration. And you don't pass that last final PST, which is probably the most important one, then they go, hey, thank you for your service. You're going back to mom and dad or wherever it is that you came from. And it's kind of a sad situation, but it's just kind of the reality of things. And from what I've spoken to some other people that I've reached out to try to get as much information, because I always get questions like that too as well, bro. Hey, so what about this? What about that? I'm like, bro, I don't know. Like, let me figure some stuff out. So that's why that's another reason why I wanted to have you on, to get a little bit things more in par with the information that's actually correct. So that way we can put out the best material out there. But yeah, you don't make those times. Hey, sorry, man. Thank you for your service. But
yeah, it's definitely pretty cutthroat. So if you don't come in prepared, like there's not even really enough time to necessarily get prepared. Like if you're not comfortable in the water yet, 6 weeks isn't necessarily going to make you comfortable in the water. Same thing with running and all that kind of stuff. Like, but predominantly the biggest killer is going to be the water. People run, people do push-ups, people do pull-ups, but the water is definitely the great equalizer, regardless what pipeline you want to go to. So if you're not ready for that, like they can only do so much in that short period of time.
yeah, one of my boys right now is finishing up 18 Delta, and even when he was going through what's the name of the fucking schoolhouse for recon, trying out, you know what I'm talking about? BRC. He's like, bro, every time we were in the pool, and he's a pretty fit dude, and he's a fucking stud, like no homo. But yeah, he's like, bro, like every time we hit the pool, if you did not have a strong group of dudes, you were gonna get fucked on, and it was just gonna make it so much more difficult for everybody. So if you aren't treading like almost every day, like just I don't even know what to tell you.
Yeah, and I will say that out of the three NECs, SARC Corpsman, despite what the name may entail, especially being in the Navy, we don't spend much time in the water once we get out of school because we're dry crewmen, quote unquote. We have rescue swimmers that do the water piece. You'd still do quite a bit of water work when you're at Nakas, Aircrew Candidate School, but regardless, you still have to make it through that part in core school, and you got to be comfortable in the water. That's all there is to it.
So after the past core school, I know the pipeline gets a little weird because there's a lot of secondary, tertiary schools when it comes to that. So what are some of the schools that kind of come after that?
So in no particular order, they're going to go to Nakas, which is Naval Aircrew Candidate School. And that's just your intro to aviation physiology. So you're going to do the helo dunker there. You're going to spend pretty much every day in the pool for, an hour, maybe a couple hours, getting used to swimming in flight suits and gear and boots and all that kind of stuff. And it's not for time. Usually it's more for proficiency, getting used to doing this. So you may be given a task of your last task is you have to swim a mile. But the time they give you is pretty robust. You have, I think, 80 minutes to swim a mile in flight suit and boots. So you're like, man, I got to swim a mile. But once you start swimming, it's really not that bad as long as you're comfortable in the water. That's all it is. You just got to, keep on swimming like from fucking Finding Nemo. You just got to keep going, man, until you're done. So that's definitely for that school, definitely like the hardest part. But when dudes get there, you'd be surprised. There's some dudes that have difficulty doing that part, but by the time they leave, pretty much everybody makes it. It's a pretty low attrition school, despite the fact that the culminating event is swimming a mile with, boots and flight suit on. So you would think that'd be a pretty big killer. It's really not. But it definitely tests your comfortability in the water for sure. After that, you can go to another school. You may go to SEER, which is either in Coronado or Maine. That's 2 weeks, 2 weeks worth of training. Pretty cool school. Definitely like a real kick in the balls if you're not ready for it. And then you have the Flight Medic Schoolhouse, the FMC down in Pensacola. That's 7 weeks. And then you'll go to either West Coast or East Coast Fleet Replacement Squadron, HSC-2 or HSC-3, where you'll do your helicopter training, essentially is what it is. So you'll learn how to be a crewman. And then from there, you will already know at that point where you're going by the time you get to the FRS, and then you'll PCS to your first command. And then you'll have 180 days right now of on-station training to get qualified, and then you're released to the wild to go and do your thing. But the pipeline is changing currently. Paramedic school is coming online. So that'll change the way that things look in the future. Our dudes are required to be paramedics. It's just not part of the pipeline. So we send them on a case-by-case basis on the wings dollar to paramedic school.
Damn, that's something that even I didn't know, but it's definitely something good that a lot of these programs are changing and doing a lot more qualifications to be able to give, the people that are doing this crazy training, and the amount of medical information that you guys have to hold on to is just, it's above our technical quote unquote scope. But in reality, it's just like, bro, like we're doing this day to day. We're studying all this stuff. It just about amounts. Even IDC school now, I think, that's changing as well, and I think they're going to start giving them either associates or bachelors coming out of there. So that's changing this year.
Yeah, I heard something about that. I know that when they were in years past, upon graduation, they're pretty close to a bachelor. So it's nice. They're starting to translate that to a complete bachelor's degree, which is cool.
Yeah, I think that's something that just started this year from what I heard. Don't exactly quote me on that, but I'm like 90% sure on that. But yeah, it's good that they're trying to do at least paramedic for you guys, what you guys are doing out there. And then you guys are flying in what, Romeos?
No, 60 Sierras.
Okay.
We used to have a couple platforms available. We had the H-46, the H-1, the Huey, and the 60s, the Sierra version. But the 46 squadrons are all gone on the Marine Corps side of the house. And then the few Hueys we had left, those are gone too. So now we're just down to 60s right now.
Damn, dude. 60s are fun, though. I flew in one down in Coronado, funny enough.
Yeah, man. They're good birds. They're good birds.
Yeah, they were fucking with me because I think that was one of the few that I hadn't ridden on, and these dudes were just banking left and right, going up and diving down. It was probably the most fun I ever had in my life.
Yeah, but, I've been a Sierra crewman since 2010. I was on the Marine Corps side, search and rescue on 46s before that. Love the Frog, probably one of the greatest, SAR aircraft that we've ever had. But it went the way of the dinosaur eventually, and we switched over to 60s. So 60s is a good airframe, though. I like it.
So what's like a day-to-day life and being in your shoes, bro?
So, I mean, experiences may vary, man. You can talk to the SMT, and they're all going to have a different story. They're all going to have a different, career summary and whatnot. I've been I would say I've been very fortunate with where I've been stationed and how my career has progressed. After I left the 46 Search and Rescue, Cherry Point SAR, I came up to Norfolk and transitioned to the 60 and went to HSC 22. I did back-to-back C there. And then I transitioned to HSC 2, which is right down the street, did the A Street Shuffle, and became an instructor, did my instructor tour there. And then I had orders to HSC 9. I did a duty swap with somebody else and went back to HSC 22. So when I get out of there, I'll have done close to 10 years at one command, but love it. That's why I wanted to go back to it. It's a great command. It's changing. They've always used me. They don't look at me as an SMT. They look at me as a crewman that's allowed to do medicine.
Yeah.
So they, I'm no different than a rescue swimmer, or than any other crewman. So I'm qualified in all the mission sets, aerial gunnery instructor. My squadron does UAS work as well. So I'm qualified in unmanned aerial systems. So we have rotary wing manned and we have manned helicopters. So our unmanned systems, the MQ-8 Bravo, and I work on that. And then I also do 60 work as well. So just kind of depends on what missions we're doing and how we employ, depending on what aircraft. We may actually use both of them. Just depends.
So kind of like a jack of all trades when it comes to that.
Yeah, I mean, like corpsmen are always known for that, that quote, "Jack of all trades, master of some." I like to say.
Yeah.
I like to think of the SMT, like at the HSC squadron, being like the epitome of that, because we really do it all, man. Some people don't. People always call me AWS one, and then they always forget that I'm a corpsman. So I enjoy it. It's a good job. Pretty rewarding. I love being a crewman. Love flying. It's been a pretty good ride.
And funny enough, one of my best friends, he was a AWR, and same thing. He said nothing but good things, but he was a Romeo, and then he transferred over to our community. And he's kind of a shithead, but he's a good dude. He's finishing up the 18 Delta right now. But yeah, he's like he loved being a crewman and all that other stuff, but he wanted to do a little bit more bang stuff. And then so now he's going down that pipeline. And yeah, he's like, bro, like that's really all I want to do. And he's like, I wouldn't pick, now that he's a corpsman and he's experienced like a little bit more stuff. He's like, bro, there's nothing else I would more rather be. And even from time to time, he's like, yeah, if he had the opportunity, he would go back with the AWRs to hang out with them and just for old time's sakes. But yeah, he's always told me about how nice things are on that side of the house, a little more relaxed when it comes to that. So I'm just like, man, dude, what the fuck am I doing in my life right now?
Aviation's a different animal, man. I came into the Navy as a undez seaman, and picked up BM3 and then cross-rated. So going from like blue side Navy to like aviation, and I've done both green side aviation and blue side aviation, but it's definitely a different animal, than the rest of the military, the rest of the Navy. Yeah, it's pretty relaxed for the most part.
All right. Which side did you like most? Green side wing or blue side wing?
Blue side wing.
Why?
Because so I was just saying how it's more laid back. Green side's definitely it's pretty laid back. But when you go to the blue side, I mean, the Navy's more laid back than the Marine Corps. So Navy aviation more laid back than Marine Corps aviation. I also, one thing that I really like better about the Navy side than the Marine Corps side is when you're a Navy SMT, you're a rated crew member. So like I go to the FRS and learn how to be a crewman. When you're on the green side, you're not a crewman. So like you can't be a crew chief. The crew chief is an MOS. Right. So everybody else, they use aerial observers. It could be a dude from admin, or it could be a dude from the PR shop, and he's just going to be an aerial observer. He's still getting crew pay and whatnot, but he's not a crewman. He'll never be a crew chief and actually run the flight. So on the Navy side, we can do that. The Marine Corps side, we're just kind of guys that hop on. We still get NATOPS checks and all that, but we'll never be able to progress to the crew chief spot.
Even though like you're probably qualified enough to hold all positions on that bird.
Yeah, well, the big difference is in 2006, the Navy got away from their crewmen being maintenance rated, so now they're just crewmen. They don't work on the helicopters. In the Marine Corps, the crew chiefs are maintenance rates, so they fly it and they fix it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that makes a lot more sense. I was trying to figure it out, but okay. But even then, that's still kind of like, you would think, like, I don't know, at least from my perspective, like Marines do more with less. And if you have someone that's qualified, and even though they don't hold that MOS and they're able to do it, that would be someone you would kind of like, hey, okay, maybe we can keep them some leniency and be able to do a little bit more things. And that would just be kind of like a smarter choice. But then I'm using common sense, so.
Dude, hey, man, that's a great point. So, like, one thing that I love about the Marine Corps is just like you said, man, do more with less. And the corpsman is always looked at as a force multiplier. They're never looked at as just the dude that carries the fucking bag with the Band-Aids. Like, you may have a corpsman that's in a scout sniper platoon. You may have a guy corpsman can do anything. Just depends on where they're at and what they need them to do. In the Navy, the AWs, especially like years ago, like when I first started coming in, you definitely had a lot of AWs that weren't so happy that we were there. A lot of those guys are kind of gone. We don't really have those problems anymore. We have some really good dudes in the community that have really like taken us forward and really showed the capability of the SMT. But it's that force multiplier mentality. The Navy just doesn't look at things the same way. They just don't. They never have. But the gun side always has.
And that's something that it's always bothered me to like no ends, that it's like, we have more than enough capabilities to do a lot of these things. Like you were saying, Marines exploit that. And sometimes it's to an advantage, and sometimes it's just like, hey, bro, no, like maybe for this thing, maybe we should get someone who's an expert on whatever it might be. But the Navy we're stuck in a lot of old ways as well. And a lot of things are changing, which is good, at least in some aspect of things. When it comes to medicine, change and more training, education, always 100%. I will always back that up. But some things it's just like, hey, don't change things just to change it. But if it's for progress and for progression of betterment of all of it, hey, let's roll with it. But people are stuck in their fucking positions where they're at, and they just want to be either complacent or something works to a certain degree that it's just enough. You know what I mean? At least from my own opinion.
Well, a lot of it comes down to like a warfighter's mentality, man. The Marine Corps grows up with that being instilled into them from day one. The Navy doesn't have that same warfighter mentality, and everybody likes to have this like me mentality kind of thing. The way that I like to look at it, where it's like I have this skill set, I'm really good at it, but I don't necessarily want everybody else to have that knowledge kind of thing. Whereas in the Marine Corps, you may have your 240 gunner, but there's going to be a lot of other people that know how to operate that 240 just in case that dude goes down. You know what I'm saying? So we'll have squadrons that, and it's not like I said, things have changed a lot over the years, but when we first started coming up in this community, when we made it to the HSC squadron starting in 2006, you had a lot of people that didn't want the SMT to be acting in a capacity as like a crew chief or something for certain missions, because a corpsman shouldn't be doing that. Well, if I'm going to be on that aircraft for that mission, whether I'm the crew chief or not, why wouldn't you give me all the training so that I can be an asset in the back instead of the dude that just sits on the seat waiting for some dumb shit to happen, so that I can help? Maybe this gun's jammed and you need somebody to help work this gun, or you need ammo being opened up and given to you, or you need a guy that can do missile timing, or just help in the back with whatever it may be for the pilots up front, running through checklists, doing that kind of stuff. Not trying to steal the show from anybody, use what you have to your advantage kind of thing. And like I said, since 2006, we've made a lot of progress, and that's kind of how we're at today. But it's taken a lot of time, and you still have some people that are set in some old ways. You don't have that in the Marine Corps.
Yeah, and I 100% agree, at least from that standpoint. Even spending time with Marines, I was on my first fucking deployment, and I was already a vehicle commander at some point, and then I was even on comms, which, a little bit up my alley, but not a whole lot, but constantly sending messages back and forth, communications. And first deployment in Afghanistan, even though I was like sitting in a truck, we were still out patrolling and setting off all kinds of messages. And even when I sit in the back, same thing like you said, being that force multiplier, helping out with any little thing instead of just kind of sitting there in the back asleep, like how most corpsmen usually are, But I knew how to run the 240. I knew how to run the 50 cal, the Mark 19. I knew where all the ammo was, where everything was at. Because if I didn't, well, one, I'd get hazed like a motherfucker if I didn't know. And if I didn't know my gun drills, because I was with a gun section, they were gonna push my shit in. So like it was better for me to know. And then there was always that weird scenario of if one of my guys goes down, we're still taking fire. And since we're riding in trucks, it's a high probability of it's going to be a headshot. So weirdly enough, if they go down, they're expired. I have to get up on the gun while someone else is driving and directing. It's like, I need to know what I'm doing. So they definitely exploit that too. Like, in a good way, I guess you could say. But with Navy, yeah, the more you know, they tend to, instead of spreading that wealth and knowledge of information, they just overload that one person that can do all these things. And I've said it on different podcasts and I've said it in different places, but it's just like the more you know, the more they tack on. And it's just like, bro, like there's so many other people that can be fucking doing it. But the more responsible you are, the more responsibilities they're just going to throw on you until you're extremely burned out and you're like drinking at work or you're like drinking every day, hating your fucking life. It's fucking crazy.
Asset, not a liability, man. That's the way you got to approach everything. You know, like not trying to steal anybody's job. You're just trying to be able to be the guy that they can call on if something goes bad. And now there's more than one person that knows how to do what needs to be done.
100% agree, man. Like it just, I can't even say anything else. You know what I mean? Because it's just, because you're doing more than most.
Yeah.
And then even then, I don't know. My experience has always been like, hey, man, just like when I first hit the fleet with the Marines, it was like, hey, bro, how do you work the machine gun? How do you do this? How do you do that? Like, at least from my experience, like as soon as you start asking how to do things and how it works, people automatically hit like a switch like, oh, Doc wants to know how to do this stuff. And they're more than open to how to teach you how to do it. So then they know that you're interested and you want to do it. And it's always fun shooting guns. So I don't know who doesn't want to learn how to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's always that, man.
Because it's like, you know, we fall into this weird space between it's like, under the Geneva Convention, you know, we're medical professionals, quote unquote, and, you know, we're only self-defense of our patients. But, you know, things get a little weird and they can get a little hairy. But if you're not doing the best thing to kind of help your boys out, especially, you know, putting rounds down range, then what are you really doing? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. All right. So we kind of went off on a tangent there. We were talking about, I guess, my experience. Like I said, when I started that whole part, everybody's experience varies, man.
Yeah.
You get guys that go out of the schoolhouse and go directly to Station SAR. We have multiple Station SARs. We got one in Key West, Pax River, China Lake, Fallon, Lemoore, and Whidbey Island. And they're all different. No Station SAR is like the next one, you know, as far as terrain, topography, who they're supporting, and then call volume. So we got Pax River on the East Coast. They might respond to, you know, a half dozen calls a year. Unfortunately, they have Trooper 7 there that does a lot of the stuff for the state. So Pax River doesn't get called on a lot. But they're there to help with the Wallops Flight Facility. And then you could go up to the Pacific Northwest where Whidbey Island's at, and those dudes do shit, man. You know, a dozen calls a month, easy, well over 100 a year. And it's pretty consistent. I mean, sometimes they'll do 4 on a weekend. It just kind of depends, man. It's a holiday weekend this weekend. Weather's still nice. I wouldn't be surprised if they logged, you know, 2, 3, 4 calls this weekend. So definitely a pretty consistent thing to wake up in the morning a couple times a week and see something happen overnight in Whidbey Island doing rescues there. Then you got China Lake and Lemoore, which are kind of near, you know, the Sierras, Sierra Nevada mountains in California. And they don't do nearly as much as Whidbey Island SAR, but they do their fair share amount, a dozen or so rescues a year, you know, 1 or 2 a month probably. Fallon, kind of the same. And then you got your HSC, left coast, right coast, east coast, west coast. And then you have a squadron in Japan and a squadron in Guam. Guam's kind of like a weird, has an identity crisis because they do SAR for the Marianas Islands, and they also do HSC duties. So they're kind of like a Station SAR but a seagoing command. So they actually get quite a few searches and rescues a year as well. And then you got the HSC guys who are, we do just about everything. So, like I said, I started off at search and rescue, loved it. And then went to HSC, and I've been there the rest of my time. But just depends on where you get orders to out of the schoolhouse. So everybody's experience varies. Every squadron is different. They have their ebbs and flows, and just depends on when you get there.
Yeah, I seems like you guys have a higher operational tempo when it comes to the rest of us regular scrubs. Or is that just kind of based on orders, or how does that kind of work for you guys on that side of the house?
So again, every squadron is different. When it comes to HSC, we have two types. We have expeditionary and carrier based. So the carrier based guys, which are 4, 5, 7, 9, 6, 11, all the way up to 14. Those guys all do, so all the non-20 numbers, those guys all do carrier-based deployments, and they'll go out with the carrier strike group. Those are pretty clocked-worked deployments, because it goes with the life cycle of the carrier. And then you have expeditionary. Expeditionary is debt-based. I'm debt-based, so the whole command doesn't leave. We have, every squadron has a different number of detachments. Some may have 6, some may have 8. And they're either a 1-bird or a 2-bird or even a 3-bird detachment. And what those detachments go to is just kind of what Fleet Forces and CNAF says you're going to. So you could be doing overland stuff. You could be doing ship-based stuff, LCS, all the way up to the LHDs, LHAs, and everything in between. Not the small boys, with the exception of the LCS, but we could do supply ships, big deck amphibs, whatever. And then the size of the ship dictates how many helicopters go to it. How many helicopters dictates how many people go to it. Maintenance, aircrew, pilots, all that kind of stuff. So my squadron, like I said, we're UAS, so we're pretty much strictly, for the most part, LCS and humanitarian aid, disaster relief, that kind of stuff. So we do a lot of single bird 60 ops and UAS.
That's pretty cool. And then is the seashore rotation different for y'all, or is that just kind of based on your own kind of choice? Because I know for regular Quad Zero, L03 Alpha, or 8404, it's always seashore, seashore, seashore. Sometimes people go shore to shore, then they get the fuck out, or they go seashore, shore, and depending on whatever rotation they're at. But most of the time they want to do their sea duty 3 years, shore duty now it's like 3 or 2, depending on if it's like hazardous or some like weird kind of shit. So
for the guys that are not ATF, it's still 3 and 3, 3 sea, 3 shore. And it's real sea duty. I know a lot of corpsmen can get sea duty, but it's not sea duty. So you're either going to be on a deployable squadron or you're going to be on a shore duty kind of thing. In our shore duties, while they're a lot of fun, like I said, Station SAR, you're working all the time, so you're gone quite a bit. Or when I say gone, like you're working, 7 days a week sometimes.
Yeah,
you got that 24, 48-hour alert on the weekends and whatnot. The ATF guys, I think their first duty station is 4 years. I can't remember off the top of my head. Their first sea duty, and then it goes into 3-4-3 or 3-3-3, 3-3 back and forth. So other than that, it's 3 and 3.
Okay. And then does it look kind of bad on y'all as well, kind of like how it does now? Because like I remember back then, like you could go C to C to C to C to C to C to C, and like no one would like bat an eye. It's like, okay, yeah, he wants to keep deploying, cool. Like I don't care. But then now that thing's sort of extremely cooled down, and like we're not fighting like any fucking wars, I guess, sort of, question mark. But now they're really pushing into that actual rotation and sticking within your fucking billets when it comes to rank, I guess you could say. Like, is that still kind of frowned upon on your side, or like people just don't give a shit?
So on the sea to shore rotation thing, we have more sea duty billets than we have shore duty billets. So it has never been an issue if somebody wants to stay on C duty. Obviously, you can't just continue to stay on C duty after C duty after C duty. But if you wanted to do back to back, it hasn't been an issue. As far as, yeah, I don't remember what the second part of that question was, but if you want to go back to back C duty, you can do that for sure.
Yeah, that was just practically it, because I know for regular quad zeros, I guess kind of general corpsman, it looks bad if you go like shore to shore, or now especially detailers, which at some point I'm hoping I can get one of them on here. But to have a little more questions answered, or unless somebody else already has like a YouTube video or something like that. But
so shore to shore, obviously you're not going to be able to pick shore to shore. Occasionally I have seen guys go shore to shore, but that was due to the detailer sending them shore to shore, because that's where they had the billet available that they needed to send them to. So right now we're so for almost my entire time as an SMT, we were like 60% manned consecutively, year to year, month to month, day to day. For whatever reason, we could never break that like 66% mark. ATF came about like a year and 2 years ago, just about. And in that time, we've gone from 66% manned to like 102% manned. So right now, we do have that problem where if BBD pops something up and the guy's going from shore duty and there's nothing to put him on, he's going back to shore duty if that's the only thing that's available. So, yeah, just the way that everything's working out right now. We didn't have anybody, or we were undermanned, and then all of a sudden we're stuffing dudes in the closet because ATF keeps pumping them through the pipeline. We have nowhere to put them.
I mean, at least you guys are overmanned on that side, because over on our side, it's just been a fucking goddamn wreck of a fucking shit show. But then at the same time, it's just like we have people going to shore. And I understand, like you said, there's certain circumstances like that happen where it's just like, hey, we don't have enough billets, or weird things happen, or, people get pregnant. And just, there's always circumstances that happen. And when you start looking at things like that, it's like, okay, then whatever. Or people get out and people don't pick up, and just in that way, like, life happens. But yeah, our side is just, we're overmanned because no one's picking up, but we're undermanned when it comes to all these billets. And then most people tend to kind of like I guess when it comes to like particular communities, they tend to stay within certain places, and then just that's all they do their whole fucking time. And instead of going other places, and then you start applying to different places, and now it seems like everyone I know, oh yeah, they're sending me to MLG, and I'm like Jesus fucking Christ, like that would be like I'll go back to 29 Palms, like before they send my ass to MLG. But even then, like I know dudes that are like, hey man, send me to division anywhere, like literally anywhere, and they're like, nah, bro, you're going to Med Battalion, you're going to MLG. And it's just like, God damn, dude. Like, I will take a ship before, like, they even send me to fucking MLG. I mean, like, I've worked with the SDP. They were really cool. But the probability of you going to, like, a specific one, or even just, I know EOD technically falls under MLG for some weird fucking reason. So that would be one of the only pluses, but I don't know whose dick I would have to suck to get something specific, you know what I mean? And it's not like I'm just be like, hey, what's up, bro? I'm just going to docs, like send me with DOD, you know what I mean? Like that's fucking dumb. And then now everyone knows who I am, and I'm getting a JP, then, whatever.
Yeah.
But
you could try. Never know.
It's bad enough that, we're already doing this because, I don't know, because my dumbass fucking voice. So I got that going for me, which is nice. But I'm not, at least all of us admins here, like, we've never been about that, about like, it's been more about just the content and the followers, because it's just like, bro, like, who gives a fuck about it? Like, any one of us particularly, like, we're all just fucking dudes doing a thing and trying to put out funny shit, I guess, from time to time. And then just when things get spicy, you know what I mean? You just got to make memes. But, and that's really as much as I'm going to touch on that. But yeah, most of the time it's just to try to do something good, put some information out, do stuff for, for all the homies and for everyone that likes it. And just, it's about putting good shit out there. And this was just kind of the next step in line, is something that a lot of us always considered. And now that a lot of us are sitting down, doing more episodes, doing more information, and them and I always discuss about getting, hey, people from pipelines, so that way, kind of like how we have you on today, bro. We're doing what has been missing for a long time, I think, in our community.
Yeah, no doubt, for sure. It's definitely like I said in the beginning, man, you can put a million things on the internet and web pages and stuff, but most people, especially like the junior guys, spend their time on social media. So it's just like the natural progression of things. Start a social media, the podcast, people start listening to that on their way into work, or, while they're stewing behind the desk, hating life.
Yeah.
And, it's just a good way to put shit out, for sure.
Yeah, man. So that way, we can get that better information, because Wikipedia, I don't know, I trust it to a certain point degree. And then even then social media, like, it's become like this whole another fucking beast of its own thing. But when you get people that are SMEs, subject matter experts, it definitely makes things a little easier to kind of digest a lot of this information that, a lot of the stuff you see online is super convoluted, or it's not exact, I guess you could kind of say, or just, people are always going to have fucking questions about like whatever field,
Yeah, absolutely. And things always change. So it's good to try to keep the new stuff out and get the old stuff, the outdated stuff out of there. So social media is like the way to do it, for sure. It was something I was thinking about. I wanted to, going back to the beginning of when we were talking about like how they bring the ATF dudes in off the street and whatnot. Just something I wanted to put out there for anybody that like actually wants to do the ATF program. It doesn't matter to me if it's SAR or DMT or SARC or whatever it may be. You got to go in there and tell them that that's what you want. ATF's been around long enough now, or most recruiters know about it. When it first started, there was a lot of people that were not texting me, but messaging me on the IG saying, hey, my recruiter doesn't even know what this is. And I was like, hey, just go in there and tell them you want an HM ATF contract, and they'll figure it out. Right. But I made a post today about SOCOM athlete. Cause I do get a lot of people that message me about like, hey, like, what should I prep for? Like, what kind of stuff should I look at? Is there a book? Is there anything that you recommend? And I used to send them to like Stu Smith on YouTube for swimming, and then like Softlete programming for just workouts if they weren't able to come up with their own stuff on a day-to-day basis. And then I kind of stumbled across that SOCOM athlete page. I'd seen it, but for some reason I never checked into it. And then I don't remember what I was browsing through, and it popped up. So I checked it out and kind of started going through their page, and they do a pretty awesome job. Like, you can subscribe to them, and they'll put you based off, you'll send them some demographic information, who you are, how old you are, when you plan on joining, where you live, and your weaknesses and your strengths as far as physical abilities go. And they'll take that information, and they have a database, and what they'll do is they'll go in and they'll try to co-locate you. Like, if you're from Norfolk, Virginia or whatever, they'll try to find people in Hampton Roads, or maybe they might have to expand it a little bit bigger depending on where you're from, like into southeastern Virginia or wherever, southeast Idaho. And they'll put you in a group of people that they'll have a chat that opens up, and you can talk. You can try to schedule workouts together. And then SOCOM athlete does these periodic, they call them hell days, all over the country. Pretty consistently. And basically it's like a 2-day get your dick kicked in fest, where they start with a PST, like a normal PST, push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, run, swim, and they rank everybody, and they kind of do some BRC type buds type stuff with boats and logs and teamwork and whatnot. And basically their claim is you're going to go in as a bunch of individuals, and you're going to come out with some friends and working as a team over the 2 days. So for those guys that are in high school currently, out of high school, not in the military, that kind of need some of that like prep work, I haven't done it, but from what I've seen, it's a pretty solid program. So definitely check it out.
And SOCOM athlete, if you want to sponsor us, we're more than happy to take that, or maybe not. I don't fucking know. We do talk a lot of shit on here, so it usually doesn't look good for sponsors. But Yeah, dude, that's always good for people to find good programs, good people to kind of work out with. So that way it puts them in that right mentality. And once they get to those programs or even core school and they're doing PSTs every however so fucking often, and even that last one that counts for time, they're not just gonna they're not gonna be blindsided by the whole thing, and they have a little bit more better information when it comes to that. But
it's definitely better to go into that core school, maybe not like crushing it, but definitely prepared rather than trying to catch up the whole time. It just makes your life easier, man. You don't ever want to be the dude that's coming in last on the swim or the run or fucking doing half the amount of push-ups or pull-ups as anybody else. It's better to thrive than just try to survive.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I've read something a little, because I have boys who've been through buds and they dropped, they went back. I think they made it a second time around, and then start off slow in the beginning, and then even if you are like super fit, kind of sandbag it a little bit so you're not exactly noticed. Just be able to make your way through. Like, it's not something I would recommend, but if that's up your alley.
First, I just said don't come in last.
Hey, there you go. As long as you're not last and you're somewhere in the middle, what I mean? Most dudes are going to be GP as fuck, and you're going to have your alpha fucking dudes that are just some specimen. So just, hey, as long as you're not too far behind and you're, in that middle, closer to the top, that's probably where I would be.
Yeah.
Like the water.
Gotta blend in with the pack, dude. That's how it goes.
Yeah, and if you don't get noticed, it's not always a bad thing, especially when it comes to these crazy pipelines.
Yeah, definitely. Leave unknown.
Yeah. But thanks for all the good information, man. It's definitely a big eye opener for me, you know what I mean? But I think it's definitely going to be a lot of help for a lot of people that have questions. And then if they still have a lot of further on questions, I'll always push people to people who know a little bit more when it comes to this stuff. So I'll always tell them, hey, go ask SARC Corpsman. The dude's like an expert on a whole lot of things. So that way you get a little bit more attention and a little bit of clout. I don't know. But so that way, so that way they know exactly who they're talking to, and it's someone who's that SME when it comes to that field. But if you would have some last final little bit of advice when it comes to being an SMT, bro, or just a corpsman in fucking general, like what would it be?
Don't ever expect any handouts, man. Nobody's going to give you shit. So you got to earn everything. And if you didn't earn it, then it wasn't worth getting anyway. So you always got to work hard. Never stop learning. Being a corpsman, it doesn't matter what kind of corpsman you are, whether you're a surge tech or a dental tech. Actually, they don't count. But it doesn't matter. You always got to keep learning. Stay in the books, keep studying, and then just realize that nothing worth having is free. You always got to go out and get it. That's it.
Yeah, man. I think that's some awesome advice. Like things that are earned taste a whole lot sweeter. For sure.
Absolutely, man. That's been the story of being an SMT is you got to go out and get everything. Otherwise, you're just going to be sitting on your thumb the whole time.
Yeah, and I think it goes heavily on the corpsman community because if all you know is how to do a fucking Band-Aid, you're kind of fucking useless. Like, and I don't know, man. I was brainwashed in core school where it was just like, he was a retired chief, but he's like, you're a corpsman. You're supposed to be with Marines, and whoever you're attached to, do everything that they do. You're going to drink better than them, smoke better than them, drink better than them, fuck better than them, and fucking out-PT them and everything. And if you're not, then like you're not worth your fucking salt. And since then, it's just been in the back of my head, and I took that Kool-Aid, free-based it, shot it up the whole fucking night.
Dude, that's 100% true, man. We're always, it doesn't matter where we go, we're always outnumbered. So you always got to try to be better than the dude you're working with.
Yeah, and then you earn that respect, and then when you're in that respect, things just go way more smoothly, and then you get that reputation, and then just it just carries on by itself.
Yep, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
But thanks for coming on. So if you guys aren't following him, go ahead and check him out. SARC Corpsman. He's on only on Instagram, I believe. I don't know if he's on Grindr. He might be. So, but go ahead and check him out and make sure to give him a follow. Any last words again?
Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, so thanks everyone for listening in, and give SARC Corpsman a follow. Don't forget to check us out on different platforms. We're mostly on Instagram, and you guys can follow us also on Anchor, Apple, and also on Spotify as well. I'll catch you guys next time.